is the January 19th, 2023 meeting of the ALCOSAN Green Committee. Will the secretary call the roll?
Ms. Sylvia Wilson, Dr. Barb Gilliam, Darren Kelly,
Present.
and Representative Emily Kincaid.
Here. All right. So we've got 4 informational items on today's agenda. So we'll get started with item A, program implementation status.
For the lead icon. I'm sharing my presentation with you right now. If you don't see anything, let me know.
Yep, it's showing up.
The agenda. First informational item is the GROW program implementation status. Every year we do a run through of the previous year, where we're at with the GROW projects and what their current status is. Last year, we highlighted that we have offered 152 projects that were accepted by municipalities. And in cycle 7, we added 13 more projects. So throughout the entire GROW process, we have offered 165 projects awards. Now, 1 year ago, this was the status of those awards. Red indicated these are projects that eventually had to rescind or declined the offer. Yellows are design, green, construction, blue, they were finished with construction, going through their monitoring. And then white meant that those are projects that are closed out. ALCOSAN currently, with cycle 7, we are now at 80 projects that we've received the final reports, and we're in the process of trying to close these projects out. 12 projects are currently being evaluated. 26 are under construction, 30 design, and 17 now are classified as rescinded or declined projects. So as you can see in this graphic, we are more than halfway through the GROW through cycle 7. Most of the projects now are completed. They've done everything that they've needed to do. They've assessed the project. They've given us the information through their final reports, and we're moving very well through this process. So this is the implementation update. Are there any questions?
Can you talk a little bit about the just explanation wise about the rescinded and declined projects? What would prompt them to be either rescinded or declined?
Sometimes a project gets declined because a municipality may suddenly realize the award that we offer them isn't enough. They may have been expecting more in a match that they got, and they just decided we're not going to do this project, which is fine. Sometimes they accept the award, but then they realize that, we thought we were going to get the money, but we didn't. And unfortunately, we have to decline this. And sometimes there are situations where an applicant will resubmit an application because maybe the cap got raised, or maybe the award that they previously received was based upon a certain design, and they improved that design. And when we reevaluated it, that they received a better award. Mm-hmm. And so we would still say, yes, we offered you for this project, but you're rescinding, and now here's a new project.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next informational item is the GROW program financial update in collaboration with the Finance Division. This is where we are currently in regards to how much money ALCOSAN has reimbursed municipalities through the end of 2022. This is actual monies that have been provided to the municipalities. Since 2017, every year there's been an increase in funds reimbursed to the municipalities. We are now almost at $17 million. I would ask that you remember this particular number because it does come into play later on in the presentation. So almost $17 million through 2022. This goes into where are we at right now. Throughout cycles 1 through 7, we have offered almost $75 million. The almost $17 million in payments, funds that went uncommitted, either through rescinded projects or projects that came in under budget and we de-obligated some of the funds, that is $5.7 million. So the amount of outstanding commitments for GROW is now almost $52 million. If there are any questions, I will do my best to answer them.
I have no questions.
No questions.
Excellent. Next informational item will be about project performance. We try to provide this information to the committee just to let them know what it is that we do in the GROW program to try to assess how the money that we're providing to the municipalities is being, how cost effective these projects have been. So we have a strategy and it keys in on the data that we get from the municipalities. Part of GROW, part of the application process is that you have to have some kind of pre-construction monitoring data. And the expectation is that there'll be post-construction monitoring data afterwards. So we are able to assess the improvement that was made based on this project. So when we do the project performance, we focus in on the data that through evaluation, we deem to have high or medium reliability. Sometimes we get data that's low reliability, and we have to revert back to mines, not so much the monitoring data. When we have this good data, though, we extrapolate that information to what we call the typical year. And that is a term that we use internally through the design, planning, everything. Typical year for ALCOSAN is 2003. When we did the analysis back when we were developing the clean water plan, that was the year that was typical. And so we gauge everything based off of that typical year. So we try to match up the data to that. When data is a medium reliability, we try to assess the flow change based on a daily basis, not so much on a typical year. And then anything with low reliability will utilize models. We have 81 projects that have submitted final reports to ALCOSAN. Of those 81, 80 of them we have reviewed and provide comments back to the municipalities. And you can see that the range, and if you're unfamiliar with what these acronyms mean, DSIR means direct stream inflow removal, INI is inflow infiltration, GSI is green stormwater infrastructure, SS, sewer separation, and SO is system optimization. Now I had to split this into two because I did want to just show the scale of the final reports that we have received and that have been, for the most part, most of these have been reviewed. There's one that hasn't been reviewed yet. And we have a summary that we submit on our website, and 73 of these were incorporated into that January 4th summary. And so you can see we have a lot of final reports that are in our possession. We take a look, do we have the hard data that goes along with it? Early in the GROW program, there was not a requirement that they submit the flow monitoring data to us. Now it is an expectation. And we are going back to the municipalities. Sometimes we do the monitoring for them, sometimes they do it themselves, but we want all of this information in our possession. So after we get all the final reports and we get the projects, we take a look at the as-bills just to see whether or not any significant deviations from what we originally assessed took place. Then we take a look at the monitoring and see whether or not, the reductions that we were anticipating is matching up with the reductions they're finding in the monitoring. And then we assess the reliability of that monitoring data to see whether or not it fits into a high, medium, or low reliability criteria. And that is here. And so we look at data quality, how much monitoring in the pre-construction, how much monitoring in post-construction do we have? Is the data synoptic, meaning is the pre-data and the post-data in the same seasons? Are we monitoring as best as we can, apples to apples, knowing that the weather doesn't always cooperate with us? But we try to we want this to be to overlap, so we at least can do our best to get a reasonable comparison. We don't want to have March data and comparing it to October. It's completely different, different characteristics of flow. We want to be sure that the monitoring area is representative. Was there a hydrograph analysis? Sometimes we don't get that. And then can we extrapolate that data and feel confident that if we take this information, we can extrapolate it to a typical year or another situation? And so that's how we identify high, medium, and low. Right now, I'm trying to get the municipalities to get us high reliability data. And so it's on me to push the municipalities to get to high. Most of the monitoring data comes in at medium. And when we have low data, that's usually in the earlier projects. I'm hoping that we are going to be pushing everything to high and medium. Okay, so after a final report is received, we compare all this information to the application modeling, and we see whether or not we need to update our model based upon what they actually built. And then we estimate the flow reduction based on all this modeling. And we take a look at conservative scenarios, kind of higher than average scenarios, and we develop a range that we want to take a look at. Sometimes projects have a very high flow reduction based on perfect conditions, and sometimes low. So we want to try to develop a range for these types of projects. So after we take a look at all of this information, we have a reporting requirement per the consent decree. And so every other month, on the municipal website, we take all this information and we call out the high and medium reliability data, and then we report on that. This is the information we are comfortable enough to report, saying we have a lot of confidence in this data. So at the last one, 44 out of those 80 projects were in that high and medium quality data. It's not saying that the projects are bad or anything. It's just the monitoring data that we got from there may not have met all those criteria. And the criteria we have is very high. Every year we do a Grow Performance Annual Report. That is a document that we submit internally to, just document where are we every year. And then if needed, ALCOSAN's Grow projects will go and cause a modification to the ALCOSAN system-wide clean water plan model for highly impactful projects. Now, when we take a look at just the models, from these projects, this is where we're at with the 81 projects. And when I ask you to remember that $17 million, this is the slide that I wanted you to take a look at. For that $17 million, we are estimating that we are so far removing 75 million gallons of overflow in a year. And the actual stormwater from these 81 projects is over 400 million gallons in a typical year. So for that $16 million, and it's less than 16, but for that range of money, we're getting this bang for the buck. And we're anticipating that this should be getting better. And that's for existing conditions right here, right now. Are there any questions in regards to performance evaluation?
So we're basically getting a almost 5 times return on investment in terms of dollars to gallons of reduced overflow.
Yeah, and when you take a look at all 81, it's probably coming out to probably about a little shy of 20 cents a gallon. Now, keep in mind that some projects are probably less efficient than others. We may have some projects that are coming in at pennies to the gallon, and others maybe $1 to the gallon, or $1 or more. But when you take all of this together, these results are showing that, this program is, seeing success. Some projects, are more successful than others, but as a whole, this is doing everything that we were hoping it was going to be doing.
Yeah, that looks great.
Okay, I hope everybody has a lot of time on their hands because we're talking about program guidance. This is the last informational item, and proud to say we don't really need to have any changes to program guidance. I was joking around. I know I shouldn't joke at committee meetings. But
Well, we appreciate that. We were ready to strap in and be here for the next 4 hours, but
I was about to say, oh God, I gotta call a babysitter.
No, the program guidelines, when we developed them from cycle 1, every year we had to go through some level of evolution, but in the past 2 cycles, I think we've hit on the program guidelines outside of, and Max, you can help me on this, the occasional maybe misspelling of a word or changing of dates, but nothing that would require, I believe, board action. Max, can you confirm that?
Unmute myself there. Yes, I mean, it's been really just dates, not even, I think we've caught all the typos by cycle 8 or so, but we have brought back some changes in previous cycles because if anything, we were starting this brand new. It was just we created it. We didn't have another model or anybody to look at except for other grant making activities at the state level. And so there were some refinements. We did add system optimization a couple years back as a category, but by and large, the program guidelines have served us well over the last several years and do not require substantial revisions.
So that's it for informational items. And it was supposed to be other business went first, and this is the next agenda item, other business.
yes. So we have no action items on today's agenda. So is there any other business before the committee?
There is not.
All right. Well, hearing that there's no business, can we get a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chairwoman.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next time around.